My name is Marissa Hale. I'm 29 years old, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty was the one thing you never had to doubt in a relationship. That's how I was raised. If you commit, you show up. You don't keep one foot out the door, you stay steady. That's exactly how I treated Ethan, my boyfriend of 2 years. I wasn't the kind of partner who swept him away on surprise vacations or made every night an adventure, but I was consistent. I worked hard at my job as an interior designer, came home exhausted some nights, and still found the energy to be there for him. I cooked, I listened, I reminded him of his worth when work got the better of him. I thought that counted for something. At first it did. Ethan worked in finance, a world of sharp suits, deadlines, and competition. He'd come home drained, and I'd sit with him as he vented, sometimes for an hour straight. I didn't always have stories to match, but I was always present. He once told me I was his anchor, the calm in his chaos. I loved that role. I didn't need to be exciting. I just wanted to be dependable, the person he could lean on without hesitation. But slowly the tone shifted. A few months ago, Ethan started mentioning a new hire at his office. Her name was Sabrina, a mid-level manager, confident, bold, someone who apparently knew how to command a room. At first it was just passing comments. Sabrina doesn't let anyone push her around in meetings. Sabrina knows her worth. She told the boss off about a deadline. Can you believe that? He spoke about her with a kind of admiration I hadn't heard in a long time. Not just her actions, but the way he said her name, as though it lingered on his tongue longer than it needed to. I told myself I was being paranoid. People talk about coworkers all the time. Still, something in me shifted. A splinter lodged itself inside me, small but sharp. Then one night, Ethan came home from a work happy hour, buzzing with energy. He tossed his jacket onto the couch and poured himself a drink. You know, Sabrina was hilarious tonight, he said, grinning. She's got this way of telling stories that has the whole table laughing. I forced a smile. Sounds like you had a good time. He leaned back, eyes lighting up. She's just different, confident, charismatic. People pay attention when she speaks. And then he looked at me, not directly, but enough for me to feel the weight of what wasn't being said. I asked quietly, "And you don't think people pay attention to me?" He rolled his eyes, dismissive. "You know what I mean. You're safe, predictable. That's not bad. It's just different." The word safe lodged itself deeper than any splinter. He tried to soften it, but I heard the truth. Safe wasn't a compliment. It was a polite way of saying boring. Over the next few weeks, little digs began slipping into his words. When I hesitated about buying something expensive, he muttered, "Sabrina wouldn't overthink it. She just does things." When I turned down a last-minute trip because of work, he sighed, "You're too careful. Sabrina would just go." It wasn't constant, but enough to sting. Enough to make me feel like I was living in someone else's shadow. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I thought maybe it was just a phase, or maybe he didn't realize how cruel the comparisons were. So I kept showing up the way I always had. Patient, loyal, steady. But here's the truth about betrayal. It doesn't come crashing down all at once. The cracks form long before the wall collapses. And in those nights where I lay awake beside him, pretending to sleep, I already knew something was shifting. Something I couldn't ignore forever. The more Ethan talked about Sabrina, the harder it became to pretend I didn't notice. At first, it was little things. Her name casually woven into stories. But soon, it felt like every conversation circled back to her. I'd ask about his day, and before long, he was telling me about something Sabrina said in a meeting, or how boldly she challenged a client. The admiration in his voice wasn't just professional. It carried weight, an undercurrent I couldn't ignore. One evening, while cooking dinner together, I asked if he wanted more garlic in the pasta. He barely looked up from his phone. "Sabrina swears garlic's the secret to a good sauce. She made this roasted chicken once for the team potluck, and everyone went crazy for it." I stared at him, the knife in my hand frozen midair. Was he really bringing her up over garlic? I didn't say anything, but the silence between us thickened. It got worse at social events. At a friend's birthday, he told a long story about Sabrina standing up to a demanding client. The whole table laughed at his retelling, but all I could hear was how much pride he carried in her boldness. Pride that used to be reserved for me. Later that night, as we walked to the car, I teased, "You really admire her, don't you?" He shrugged, unbothered. What's not to admire? She's fearless. And then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "You could be like that, you know, if you weren't so cautious all the time." The words stung more than I let show. One night we were curled up on the couch, him with a glass of whiskey, me scrolling through design ideas on my tablet. Out of nowhere, he sighed. You ever think maybe you play it too safe, Marissa? Life's short. Don't you ever wonder if you're missing out? I put my tablet down slowly. Missing out on what exactly? He hesitated, then smirked. On people who actually take chances. The implication hung between us. I tried to steady my voice. So, you're saying you'd rather be with someone like Sabrina? His smirk widened, like he enjoyed watching me squirm. I didn't say that. But he didn't deny it either. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling. His words looped in my mind, twisting into something sharp. Predictable, safe, too cautious, not enough. I thought about all the times I'd chosen him first, canceling plans to be home when he needed me, putting his career deadlines before my own rest, listening for hours without expecting anything back. And now I was the consolation prize, the dependable placeholder. I caught my reflection in the window, the city lights flickering behind me. For the first time, I wondered if I'd become invisible in my own relationship. The cracks were widening, and I could feel something coming, though I didn't know it yet, the moment where those cracks would finally shatter. The collapse didn't come with yelling or slammed doors. It came quietly, like a knife sliding between ribs. It was a Thursday night. I'd cooked dinner, simple pasta, a bottle of Red Open on the counter. We sat on the couch afterward, him scrolling through his phone, me half watching a design show on TV. He started talking about work again, and of course, Sabrina. She practically took over a presentation today, he said with a laugh, shaking his head. She threw out half the slides and redid everything in under an hour. And everyone loved it. The woman can talk her way out of anything. I muted the TV. You mention her a lot, Ethan. He blinked, like he hadn't even noticed. Do I? She's just the kind of person people notice. You'd like her if you met her. I studied him. Maybe. But do you realize how it sounds when you keep comparing me to her? Something flickered in his eyes. Irritation, not guilt. I'm not comparing. I'm just saying she's impressive. And I'm not? My voice was sharper than I intended. He sighed, setting down his glass. Marissa, you're stable, reliable. That's a good thing. But Sabrina, she's bold. She takes risks. Sometimes I wish you'd be more like that. There it was. No subtlety, no filter, just the truth, raw and careless. I felt my throat tighten. So, you want me to be someone else? I didn't say that. His tone grew defensive. I just mean, you overthink everything. Life's short. Don't you ever wonder if you're missing out? The silence between us was heavy, electric. And then, he smirked. Not a nervous smile, not regret. A smirk, like he wanted to test how far he could push me. Honestly, he said, swirling the whiskey in his glass, if Sabrina wanted me, I'd leave you tomorrow. The words sliced through me, cold and precise. I stared at him, my pulse loud in my ears. Say that again? He shrugged, careless. Don't act surprised. You know it's true. Something inside me shifted. A door slammed shut. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg him to take it back. I just looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the truth written across his smug expression. He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't joking. He believed it. All the months of comparisons, the little digs, the subtle undermining, it had all led here, to the moment he told me, without hesitation, that I was disposable. So I nodded, slowly, almost to myself. No, Ethan, you've said enough. I unmuted the TV. The chatter of the design show filled the silence like nothing had happened. His smirk faltered. Wait, that's it? You're not going to say anything? I kept my eyes on the screen. No, you said everything I needed to hear. For the first time in our relationship, he had no comeback. He shifted beside me, restless, sipping his whiskey like it might drown the unease. But I was already gone, sitting right there next to him. That night, I lay awake in the dark, my body next to his, but my soul miles away. He scrolled on his phone like always, oblivious. But I wasn't the same woman I'd been an hour before, because now I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I woke before Ethan. He was sprawled across the bed, hair messy, phone still in his hand from scrolling until he passed out. He looked peaceful, like nothing had happened. But I remembered every word. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring into the steam as if it might give me answers. I didn't need them. I already knew what had to be done. 2 years of patience, loyalty, and devotion. And in one sentence, he'd told me exactly where I stood, a placeholder until someone better came along. When he finally padded into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes, he smiled faintly. Morning. You're up early. I nodded, calm. We need to talk. His smile faltered. That sounds serious. It is. I set my mug down and met his eyes. What you said last night about Sabrina, about leaving me if she wanted you. That wasn't a joke, was it? He froze, then forced a laugh. Come on, you're still hung up on that? I was just being dramatic. No, I said quietly. You meant it. His arms crossed, his voice sharpening. You're overreacting. Couples say dumb things sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. I shook my head. And it means everything. You showed me where your loyalty stands. I'm not going to compete for basic respect. His mouth opened, then closed. He stared like he couldn't believe I wasn't caving. So what? He snapped. You're breaking up with me over one sentence? It wasn't one sentence, I said evenly. It's been building for months. The comparisons, the way you light up when you talk about her. Last night was just the truth slipping out. His tone grew sharp, almost desperate. You're seriously going to throw this away because I said something stupid after a glass of whiskey? I stood, steady as stone. No, Ethan. You threw it away when you decided to measure me against someone else. I'm not temporary. I'm not a placeholder. But you made it clear that's all I'll ever be to you. He scoffed, his face hardening. You're being ridiculous. You always overthink things. You'll regret this when you cool down. I picked up my mug, rinsed it in the sink. I'm not angry. I'm just done. The look on his face was almost comical, like he couldn't wrap his head around me, not fighting for him. He was used to having the upper hand, used to me smoothing things over, tiptoeing around his moods. Not this time. Fine, he snapped. If that's how you feel, then go. So I did. That afternoon, I packed a suitcase. My hands shook as I folded clothes, but my heart felt lighter with every zipper closed. He watched from the doorway, jaw tight, but said nothing. I think part of him still expected me to stop, to break down, to beg him to take me seriously. But I didn't. I wheeled my bag to the door, paused once to look back at the apartment. It had held laughter, warmth, late-night whispers. But it also held the memory of the night he reduced me to an option. That image was burned into the walls, and no amount of paint could cover it. Take care of yourself, I said simply. Then I walked out. The door closed behind me with a finality that echoed louder than any argument ever could. After I left, the silence was deafening. No late-night texts from him asking if I'd come home, no apologies waiting on my phone. Just nothing. And for a while, that nothing hurt. I missed the routine more than I missed him. Morning coffee together, lazy Sundays, the comfort of having someone beside me. But not him, not anymore. 2 weeks later, a friend of mine who worked in the same building as Ethan called me out of the blue. He didn't know the details of our breakup, just that we weren't together anymore. His voice carried that half-shocked, half-amused tone people get when gossip is too good to hold in. Marissa, he said, you're not going to believe what's going on with Ethan at the office. I braced myself. What about him? He lowered his voice as if Ethan could hear us through the phone. Apparently, everyone knows he had a thing for Sabrina. He was too obvious, talking about her constantly. People started whispering, and then he laughed, unable to hold it back. Then Sabrina shut him down, hard. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? He tried it. Nothing physical, just a flirty comment when they were alone in the break room. She told him flat out she wasn't interested, that she had a girlfriend, that she loved her girlfriend, and that he needed to stop. I pictured it instantly, his smug confidence cracking in the fluorescent light of a break room, the rejection hanging between them like a dropped glass. My friend kept going. And Marissa? By lunch, everyone knew. Offices are like high school. Gossip spreads fast. He went from Mr. Confident to Mr. Desperate in about an hour. People are still laughing about it. I didn't laugh, not out loud. But inside, a cold, quiet sense of justice settled in my chest. The man who once told me he'd leave me tomorrow if Sabrina wanted him, she didn't want him. She didn't even glance his way. And worse, now everyone else knew it too. According to my friend, the fallout was brutal. No more chuckles in the cafeteria when Ethan walked in. People avoided sitting next to him. The men who once slapped him on the back now gave him wary looks, like his humiliation might be contagious. The women in the office, they didn't bother hiding their judgment. In just a few days, Ethan had gone from admired to pitied, from confident to pathetic. And all because he bet his dignity on a fantasy that was never his to have. Meanwhile, I was finding my own rhythm again. I threw myself into work, spending long evenings on design projects that reignited my passion. I started running again. Late-night jogs with music in my ears, city lights blurring past me. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while pouring all my energy into Ethan. With every day of silence from him, I felt stronger, lighter. He, on the other hand, had gambled and lost. The poetic justice wasn't in his humiliation. It was in my freedom. Because I no longer cared whether he crawled back, whether he regretted it, whether he understood the damage he'd done. For the first time in years, Ethan's choices no longer defined me. And that was worth more than revenge. It didn't take long before Ethan reached out. At first, it was short texts. "We need to talk." "Are you serious right now?" "This isn't how it's supposed to end." I didn't answer. Then came the longer ones. Walls of text, paragraphs filled with excuses. He claimed he was drunk that night, that the words slipped out. He said I misunderstood him, that he only wanted to push me out of my comfort zone. And then the one that made me laugh bitterly out loud. "I was testing you. I wanted to see how much you'd fight for us." Testing me. As if reducing me to a backup plan was some twisted loyalty check. I stayed silent. A week later, fate threw us into the same aisle at the grocery store. I was tossing a carton of eggs into my basket when I looked up and froze. There he was, hair unkempt, dark circles under his eyes, pushing a half-empty cart. For a moment, he looked like he might turn around and run. But then he forced a smile and walked toward me. "Marissa," he said softly. "Hey." I nodded neutral. "Ethan." He glanced at the items in my basket, then back at me. "You look good." "I feel good." That threw him. His smile faltered. "Listen," he began, shifting uncomfortably, "about everything that happened. I messed up. I wasn't thinking. I said things I didn't mean." I tilted my head. "You seemed pretty clear at the time." He flinched. "I was just trying to get a reaction. Maybe make you jealous. I don't know. I thought if I pushed you, you'd—" He trailed off. "Treat you better?" I finished. His jaw tightened. "I didn't mean it like that. Look, things at work are a mess. People are talking about me, about Sabrina. I can't go back and change it, but I can change us. We were good together, Marissa. You know we were." I studied him for a long moment. There it was, the desperation behind his eyes, the cracks in his arrogance. He wasn't missing me. He was missing what I gave him. Stability, loyalty, a safe place to land when the world chewed him up. I took a step closer, my voice low but steady. "You're right, Ethan. We were good. Until you showed me how little I meant to you, and once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it." His mouth opened, then closed. His hands tightened on the cart handle. "So that's it?" he asked, voice tight. "That's it." I adjusted my basket, gave him a polite nod, and walked past him down the aisle. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one left behind. Walking out of that grocery store aisle, I felt lighter than I had in months. Not because I told Ethan off, not because he was humiliated at work, but because I realized something simple, something liberating. I was free. Free from the comparisons, free from his smug little tests, free from the way he chipped at me, piece by piece, until I questioned my own worth. The silence after leaving him had once felt suffocating. Now it felt like air I could finally breathe. At night, I'd drive with the windows down, music loud, the city lights flickering across my windshield. I wasn't mourning what I'd lost. I was rediscovering what I'd almost forgotten, myself. Every run I took, every design I finished, every moment I chose myself first, it stitched me back together. And Ethan? He was just a shadow fading in the distance. I thought about that night on the couch when he said, "If Sabrina wanted me, I'd leave you tomorrow." Those words could have broken me. For a while they almost did, but in the end, they gave me a gift, clarity. Because when someone shows you you're only an option, you stop offering them the privilege of being a priority. I don't hate Ethan. I don't even wish him pain. He created enough of that for himself. But I am thankful. Thankful he revealed who he truly was before I wasted more years believing in a version of him that never existed. Thankful that I walked away. Thankful that I didn't beg, didn't settle, didn't cling to scraps of affection. I chose myself, and that choice will echo louder, longer, and stronger than any betrayal ever could. As I tell you this now, I can see the arc of it clearly. Beginnings wrapped in loyalty, a middle tangled with comparisons, and an ending that cracked me open only to set me free. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Betrayal has a way of circling back in life. This wasn't the last time someone would test my boundaries, or mistake my loyalty for weakness. The difference is, I'll never mistake their disrespect for love again. Because once you discover